Hello everyone, I'm Kristin from Poker Refugees and we're sitting here with Paul Eiser today on the eve, not the eve, 2 days before the anniversary of Black Friday coincidentally. We're here in Santa Ana, Costa Rica, and Paul actually is living in my old apartment in the Central Valley of Costa Rica. So I just came over here to get some stuff and hang out with Paul. He's actually been living here now for, let's see, you moved here March 1st, 2013, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Gave him a great deal on the rental.
Yeah.
And so let's see, we're almost 3 years.
3 years.
3 years that you've been living in Costa Rica. And where did you move from?
I moved from California. At the time I was living in the Bay Area, East Bay.
Okay, San Francisco. It's a nice place.
It is. Expensive.
Yeah, definitely expensive. And what were you doing between Black Friday and moving here?
Just regular jobs, trying to make a living.
Regular boring jobs?
Yeah. And getting sick of the system.
And what was the process when you first started thinking about moving to Costa Rica?
Well, it started at the WSOP in Vegas when I found out about your company, Poker Refugees. And that kind of planted the idea. And then later, it's like I had a revelation. It's like I just had to get out of there. I was with my mother. She's had cancer. She was basically dying. And I was like, I can't continue with this system thing. I had to live my life.
I can definitely relate to that. So what were your concerns? Did you travel abroad before coming here?
Yeah, I traveled on vacations. So I've been to Europe, Australia, Mexico, major countries.
What were the main things that you were afraid of before moving here? Was it financial, cultural?
No, I guess, yeah, it was just being able to get myself into the culture,
like the day-to-day life.
It's just, I guess, connecting with other people, total strangers in a strange country, sort of thing.
With a different language.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you find the transition, I guess, in the first few days and then weeks and months? How was it at first? I think everything went smoothly with poker and getting back.
The hard part was just getting information, getting comfortable with like how to get from point A to point B, how to use the buses, how to get taxis.
Yeah, and just get in the zone, get comfortable with your people on speed dial.
Getting comfortable going to San Jose, knowing how to get there and what to expect and where everything was.
Right.
It's like just getting comfortable with the layout of the place.
And how is the poker foundation that you had set up? Does that everything work well?
It works well. I mean,
Skrill, NetTeller. Oh, you use NetTeller?
I use NetTeller.
Yeah.
It works great. Everything works fine. It's just, I have to work on myself. That's a major thing. Work on myself in my game and figure out what I'm doing wrong.
And when you moved here, you started playing cash. You were playing cash before. Were you playing poker in the States and then continued here, or did you come from starting the game from scratch?
I played a little before coming here. I played some live, some online, and I hadn't really developed a game yet. I was still learning when I came here, and I was primarily playing sit and goes then.
Okay.
And I wasn't doing very well.
So how did you change? That's a very good point, because some people get stuck in the same game and aren't sure what to do. How was your thought process and how was your analysis of changing things until you found what worked? So you went from sit and goes to now playing cash.
Yeah, it was like, I felt like I just wasn't working out for me, so I had to do something different. So I went to cash. It was more flexible, easier to deal with, but I still needed a lot to learn. So I ended up reading, watching videos, more recently getting coaches to really improve. And it's mainly just learning, just being able to see. It's kind of like, it's hard to see the things you need to see before you learn.
Yes.
And once I started getting coaching, I started to see what was going on at the table.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
Right. And it's being able to see, oh, that's what that means. That's that.
The texture of the game, really.
Yeah.
So would you say it's a combination of factors then, or was there any one thing that helped more than others?
I think it's just being able to immerse. It's like having no distractions, being able to really immerse into one thing. I think that's the most important thing. You have to pay attention. You have to really be in it.
And do you feel like this is a good environment for that as far as your work-life balance, like being able to have a quiet place to grind and then also having a social life and a bit of a normalcy to your life in a foreign country?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of Americans here, so there's a lot of English speakers here. So it's very easy to meet others. So you don't have to learn Spanish immediately.
Yeah, I tell everybody that because that's the first thing they ask. Do I have to learn Spanish? And even though a lot of people have good intentions of learning, you can still get by without having to learn. And have you taken any classes or?
I have. I've just recently started a school. There's a school that I started going to, but I stopped going after a few months just because I just wasn't getting what I needed from it.
Yeah, it depends on the teacher.
Yeah. I had a good teacher at the beginning, then she left, and it all fell apart.
I have a great school, if you need, I'll give you the name after. I studied actually just right up the road in Santa Ana, so, but I went every day for a few months. But it helps me now, but I've been here for over a decade, so I definitely have to know Spanish or it would be embarrassing. But I think for people starting out with poker, focus on your game so that you can stay longer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how many months did it take after you moved here before you felt comfortable, or how many years?
I think I felt comfortable immediately.
Oh, great. So you don't regret moving to Costa Rica?
No.
What do you like the most about the difference in lifestyle coming from the rat race in California to the more laid-back system here, or lack of system?
Well, to me, the main thing that stands out is that, like in the U.S. where I lived, it seems like the neighborhoods were ghost towns. People were always inside.
Cookie cutter houses.
Yeah, it's like they were always inside. It's like the streets were empty. Here there are people out and about. There are people sitting in front of their houses.
Rocking chairs.
Yeah. And people actually go outside and get together and talk and mingle.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more collectivist culture here.
So, yeah, the U.S. was just it felt so isolating. So empty.
For a country with so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
And Costa Rica only has, 4 million, 5 million, but...
It's also more family-oriented. More family. It's like there's big families here, and they all know each other, sort of thing. Yeah,
and the lifestyle, well, I find I've been traveling around the world, going to all of our different destinations and countries for a few years now, but coming back once a year, and I think the last time I was here was at least a year ago, And I remember now all of the good food that's here and how fresh everything is and organic. And do you shop at the market in Santa Ana?
Yeah, every Sunday.
Yeah. So it seems like you have a good routine.
Yeah.
And you play poker how many hours a day?
About 6.
6 hours. And the rest studying sometimes?
Studying, watching videos, coaching, getting coached.
That sounds like you've got it figured out. So what kind of advice would you give to people who are thinking about doing something like this? I know that a lot of the questions that we get at the beginning are, is it realistic? Can I really do it? And my personal opinion is that anything's possible if you work hard enough for it, and especially if you really love it, when you take your passion and thing that you're interested in and make it your job, to me that seems like the perfect recipe. But a lot of people are, I guess you could say, they're just a little bit hesitant because they think the games have gotten tougher, and that's probably true. But you're proof, and the other players that you know here are proof that it's possible.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend to somebody who's, let's say, coming out of college and has never played professionally, or let's say somebody who played before but then went into the real world, got a job, the whole 9 yards, and now it's coming full circle and they want to go back to what they love to do? Like, what would you tell them after living here for 3 years and doing it on your own?
I think there are 2 things every person should know. One is you're going to fall on your face multiple times until you learn how to walk. You have to lose because you have to get to know the field. And once you start to get to know the field, and once you lose and lose and lose, you'll get better. And the other thing is you really have to get a network of support. So a coach, some kind of
other players.
Yeah, network of other players that you can consult with. Show hands, get advice.
Do you have people on Skype that you talk to?
Yes, on Skype. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah. There are lots of groups on Skype. There are lots of coaches out there with groups. So yeah, I think that's really important, especially for starting out. You need to get feedback. You need to know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And it's really hard to do that yourself.
Yeah, and not to have that high expectation of that pressure to win right off the bat.
Right.
And that brings me actually to another important point. Everybody asks, how much money do they have to make a move for online poker? And I say that there are 2 things: bankroll, life roll. So the bankroll is they're both very individual.
Yeah.
And the bankroll is something that each poker player has to determine for himself. And for the life roll, I say to people that they should have maybe 3 months or 6 months of living expenses saved up, just so that they don't have that pressure to win at the poker tables to eat or to pay rent.
Right.
And so what did you do? How many months of savings did you have before you came down?
Well,
and was it sufficient?
I got lucky because I got an inheritance.
Okay.
So that helped me a lot to set up the bankroll. But the bankroll for poker, it doesn't have to be big at all, because you start out small and you build. If you start off at the $10 tables, you need $500 to start with.
That's good advice.
You should get informed about Costa Rica, because it's not, the cost of living isn't that cheap compared to other countries. There's a lot of imports, which are very expensive. They have high taxes on everything here.
We tell everyone to bring their electronics with them.
Don't buy electronics here.
No.
So
Supplements, vitamins, all these specialty items that get high taxes.
And so be aware, educate yourself, and I forgot what the other thing was.
Oh, well, what is your cost of living per month, would you say?
I think it's about $2,000.
That's about right. I tell everybody because when I lived here, I had a car,
Right.
and I spent about $2,500 a month, but $500 of that was for the car. $100 a week on gas, and then insurance, maintenance, things like that. So I think $2,000 a month in Costa Rica is quite realistic without having a vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's not. Everyone thinks of Central America as living on a shoestring, and that might be true in some places like Mexico,
Right.
certain parts of Mexico, and certain parts of
Well, like Nicaragua
Nicaragua.
is cheap.
You can live on $1,000 a
Oh,
month
yeah.
easily, but you don't have as good of internet and
Right.
infrastructure.
Right.
It's all a trade-off.
Yeah.
And your internet's pretty good here
It
as
is.
well, right?
It
How
is.
many megs do you have right now?
I have the lowest,
Probably
which was like, I can't remember what
5
it
or
was.
10, maybe.
Yeah, but it's like the lowest, and it's no problem.
No problem.
Of course, you have to be prepared for blackouts.
Like today.
Yeah.
Today was the first rain in months in Costa Rica, and the power went out, and the internet went out on me, and
Well,
so I left.
Yeah, I have I forgot what it's called.
Oh, one of the backup batteries.
Backup batteries. So when the power goes out, I still have the internet.
Yeah.
And my battery computer.
That works.
That works.
What have been some of the, I guess, main challenges living here, or are you basically in a comfort zone now?
I think for me, the main challenge is, there's two things for me. Figuring out how I'm going to play poker. You know, finding my niche, kind of. Finding my niche in poker. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? That could be hard. And basically finding myself. I'm still doing that.
I think we all are.
Yeah. Because leaving the United States where I felt very censored. It feels like there's a lot of censorship, a lot of, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't express yourself this way. Very restricting.
Yes.
So I had to come out of that and start finding myself and start expressing myself. This is
being who you are.
Yes.
That is a really good point, because since I've been spending a little bit more time in the States now, using that as my home base between the countries, I have felt more censored in a way living there. And also, it's at the point where I don't feel like I fit in my own country and don't have as much in common with people who've lived in the U.S. their whole lives, because when you come to a place like Costa Rica, nobody, not even Costa Rica, if you live in a country and move out of it, you're getting out of the environment and the circle of information, gossip, even family and friends, who everyone knows what everyone's doing, and you come to a new place. It's actually quite liberating that nobody cares who you are, no one cares what you're doing, as long as you're not breaking the law. You can, it's so liberating. I mean, you could just do on any given day anything you want, and that's what I love about living abroad. And being able to walk down the street, and I guess I do miss sometimes having a community of friends around, but with the internet, I feel like I can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. So
my thing was just getting rid of the whole rat race. It's like I have my own schedule. I control all my time. I can be sick whenever I want. I can
sleep whenever you want.
Take vacations whenever I want.
Yeah.
And it's like being in control of your whole life. And
that is what feels so natural to me, because I came from college, grad school, very regimented schedule, thinking I was going into corporate America, but luckily I studied abroad and I got on a different track, so I've actually never went into that kind of job.
Nice.
And even though I don't play poker, I did real estate and then opened Poker Refugees, so I've always been kind of in control of my own bankroll and my own destiny and my own daily schedule. So it's like, as a poker player, when you work or when you don't work, you can control your volume and in a way, how much money you can make. And it's so, now that we've had this experience, I think, and you are very, you had a lot of foresight to to realize that even before moving permanently or semi-permanently, but it's very backwards now when I go back to the States because I don't know what it's like to ask for vacation days or clock in or commute or, you know, be on someone else's schedule. As a human being, I just really enjoy the freedom that comes with working for yourself. That is such a good point. When you couple working for yourself with living abroad, it's like maximum freedom, which is ironic because America is associated with freedom. So, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And I liked what you said also about having a group of people, mentors, people to talk to, and things like that to be successful, because one of the downsides of working from home, working for yourself, and working independently, whether you're a poker player or a freelancer or any other type, you know, anything in between, is that you're alone. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's great. You don't waste time. There's no meetings. There's no phone calls. There's no driving to work, but it also can be a bit isolating
and, you know,
in retrospect.
The main problem with working by yourself is you don't have an outside point of view. So it's hard to see yourself.
Like, are you doing it right?
Yeah, it's hard to see what you're doing, if you're doing it right, what you're doing wrong. It always helps to have an outside source of information. Objective,
One of my teachers taught me that there are three things. There's the way you see yourself, the way others see you, and the way you actually are. And I think about that a lot. So, and with my job as well, I work virtually with people around the world, but I'm still in charge, and I actually pay coaches and mentors to give me that objective opinion. So it's interesting because being a poker player and living here, and even with me owning a company and working for myself and living in different countries, like, it's, your identity is completely melded together. Career, lifestyle, who you are, finding yourself, your daily grind, it's all intertwined. And I guess there's no one answer for everyone. We're all still figuring it out. But I think it does give a good perspective to be on the outside of your home country, even if it's just temporarily. To get that.
Well, it's kind of like you don't know what's out there until you've been there. It's like you don't know what the possibilities are until you get out of your circle. And basically, you have to be uncomfortable.
Yes, getting out of your comfort zone. And that could be moving to higher stakes, or it could be moving to a different place. I've always said in recent years that I'm an expert at being out of my comfort zone because I'm almost never in it.
Oh, that's nice.
So maybe it's too much, but I'll go to a new place, and within 2 days, I know the whole city, and I feel like I want to live there. It's like my body and genetics, everything comes together to put roots in each place that I go to. So my comfort zone, for example, when I first moved to Costa Rica, this is a little embarrassing. I was 20 years old. It was 2002. I won a scholarship, or I applied for this scholarship. It was almost a 2-year process to get an ambassadorial scholarship, and they specifically assigned me to go to Costa Rica. So I didn't even know where Costa Rica was. And I can vividly remember being on the plane and having a CD player, like a Discman, and looking out the window, and it was raining, and I was by myself, and I was literally crying on the plane. Like, I was like, tears in my eyes. I was terrified. And the first day when I got to the house, I was staying with a local family. I just went in the room and went to sleep, and like wouldn't come out of the room, and then I had to go to school and start my new life. And I was comfortable in a way because everything was so exciting and new, so it was very intriguing, and I had traveled before, but I had never gone to a place knowing I wasn't coming back for a while or living there. And it did take me, I don't know how long, but a while to get in a comfort zone in Costa Rica. And ever since then, now that it's been over a decade, it's like practice.
Yeah.
Like I've actually practiced shortening my discomfort zone or lack of comfort zone. So it could have gone from like a month or so down to now just a couple days.
Yeah.
Where almost anywhere I go, it's like only uncomfortable for a few hours. So that, I think it's a really interesting life skill that people should have more often. I think if everybody in the world lived outside of their country, even for a month or 3 months, the world would be such a better place. Just so much more tolerance of differences between people.
Yes, better informed.
And I actually saw an article about how expat voters are voting in the elections this year. And we won't get political, but that was also very interesting. I think that seeing how expatriates are voting is very indicative of what can happen to a person when they live outside of their country for a while and getting like a better or more objective perspective on domestic issues.
Well, I think there's so much misinformation in the U.S. that people, when they leave the country and actually experience other cultures, they realize how wrong perceptions are. There's so much misinformation.
And I would say that people become less angry when they move out of the country too, because
there's less of a rush, less of a rat race.
Yeah. And if you're not surrounded by all the negativity of the mainstream media, it doesn't bother you anymore. It's an ignorance is bliss sort of thing, I guess.
Well, it's like here, one of the first things I noticed was I never got junk mail here. No junk mail.
No junk?
In fact, I don't get any mail.
Probably not much mail.
Yeah, I don't get any mail, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's less intrusive.
Yeah.
All these little things. So what would you say your goals are moving forward? What is the game plan for the next year with poker and life, and what is the big picture for you now?
Well, right now, I'm improving my game. So goals are to better educate myself, better inform myself on poker and play, but also to better know myself. We're working on that, basically getting to know me and what I want, getting to know what I want to do, where I want to go, and then expressing it, making it happen, instead of I tend to unblock myself.
Unblock yourself?
I tend to block.
Oh, block.
So I tend to block myself. It's like I tend to stop myself from trying something different or new. Because I always think it's going to be so hard, so difficult. But every time I actually get through there and I do something, it's never that hard.
You're like, why didn't I do that before?
Yeah. So and also that also has a lot to do with the culture I grew up in. Constantly being told you can't do this, you can't do that. So I believe it.
Or that you have to work so hard because everything is so hard.
But constantly, it's like there's so much censorship in America. There's so much, you can't do that feeling. That to come out of that is really hard. Prayer is a real change of mindset and belief system.
One of the things I've noticed is that we have all the answers within each of us.
Right.
This is getting really deep, guys. But the tendency in the U.S. and in Western cultures, and I would expect most people that are watching are probably from a lot of European countries, U.S., Canada, is to look outside for help in books and in school and teach, your boss at work or somebody has the answer.
Right.
But really we all have the answers for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a constant struggle of unlearning and relearning and deprogramming and reprogramming from these things that are, set back in childhood.
I think one of the main things is we think the answer is complicated. So we think we don't have the ability to come up with it. Mm-hmm. And we go outside for it. But really, the answer is simple.
Yes.
And it may require a little bit of education, a little bit of learning how to use your brain and mind. But really, once you get that little bit of information, you can go a long way with it. Just by using your own brain, your own self.
Yes. I mean, when we see other people doing things, we know it's possible.
Right.
But sometimes when we don't have an example for it, we don't know it can be done. Mm-hmm. And I think even poker is a pretty good example of that. That for a long time, nobody knew you could make a living at poker. Mm-hmm. And then Chris Moneymaker won a bunch of money, and then that started this whole thing. And then once everybody realized that it's possible, everyone did it. And we see that in sports too. And they say this is the fastest a human can run, and then someone breaks the record, and then everybody breaks it. And so living abroad, working for yourself, working from home, not really having a game plan as far as a societal plan as to what you're supposed to do next, get married, have kids, things like that. Okay, we're back. Unfortunately, we talked so long that we ran out of my memory card, so we're not sure yet what got cut off, but that was a very interesting conversation nevertheless. I hope that you guys didn't miss too much of it. I think we got about 30 minutes, but we probably talked for about 45, so we'll find out when we post the video. But I don't remember what we talked about last either. But I think, we were talking about how interesting it is now that you can do anything with the internet, and that we're not such weirdos anymore, because there are so many people living abroad, working out either working from home remotely or working from a different city or a different country, and probably, I think the studies show it's going to increase tenfold in the next couple years. So now we're not so unique anymore, but I think it's good. I think it's good for the global community for people to be doing this. And we were discussing how you can make, if you're a poker player even, you can play poker, you can be on Twitch, you can make coaching videos from your laptop, you can be like Joe Ingram, Chicago Joey, and do your own podcast. You can write books, you can self-publish, there's pretty much anything that you can do. So I would encourage anybody watching, even if you're not a poker player like me, because I'm not, just to do what you like to do.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest lesson in life. Do what you like to do and make yourself happy.
Well, a lot of people have to find themselves first.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that I really don't even know who I am.
Yeah, asking yourself, who am I? What do I want? People know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want. So figure the answer to that question.
Well, I think in today's culture, people are a lot more open to expressing themselves. They're a lot more open to being their true self. Where I felt like, as a child, growing up when I did, I felt very censored.
Even in San Francisco, because that's quite an open place, right?
Well, I grew up in LA. Los Angeles.
LA. Okay.
So it's very hard to get rid of those chains.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like I feel like a stranger to myself. So the first thing I have to do is find myself. Then I can do anything.
Right. And we're not necessarily taught that. We're taught, what do you want to do? Here's a list of things that you can be.
Right.
And if it's not on this list, then you probably can't do it. But yeah, these days, whether you're a programmer or a poker player or anything. And you don't even have to identify with your job, actually. It's like, who are you as a person?
Right.
And then what you do for a living is a separate thing, but you can also do what you like to do. When I used to surf, people would not make a living surfing. They would try, but they would make a living working at a surf shop or waiting tables, just like an actor. And when people asked what they did, they would say, I'm a surfer, even though their day job was different. So
yeah, but they had a passion.
Yeah.
And they were able to exercise that passion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that.
No.
A lot of people ignore that.
Yeah, I think if you can get out of that bubble and do what you want, then that's a step in the right direction. Doesn't solve everything, but it's a step. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us and sharing your wisdom from all of these years of experience and reflection on the ways of the world and the ways of life. Very interesting. I really appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully we didn't cut into your poker playing today.
No.
You're good.
I need the break.
All right.
So.
Well, thank all of you guys for watching and tuning in to our Barefoot Costa Rica Poker Hour over here. Poker and life discussions and path to enlightenment. See you next time.